The encounter, the corridors of mining station Aurora 7 hummed with the constant vibration of deep space machinery. Marcus Chen pushed his cleaning cart through the dimly lit maintenance levels, his worn boots echoing against metal flooring that had seen better decades. At 34, the lines around his eyes spoke of exhaustion and worry that went deeper than mere physical fatigue. His janitor's uniform was clean but patched in several places, a testament to both his pride and his limited budget. The clock on his tablet showed 0300 hours. He had been working for 6 hours straight and still had 3 more levels to clean before his shift ended. This double shift would mean extra credits, enough to buy Lily new shoes for school and maybe even a small toy she had been eyeing in the station's modest recreation center. Being a single father on a remote mining station meant every credit counted. Marcus had not always been a janitor. 3 years ago, he had worked in the mining operations alongside his wife Sarah. They had dreams of saving enough money to buy a small farm on one of the agricultural worlds in the inner systems. Lily would have grown up with real sunlight, real grass, and real animals instead of the artificial environment of the station. But a catastrophic equipment failure had taken Sarah's life and left Marcus with medical bills that consumed their savings. The mining company offered him a settlement that barely covered the funeral costs and a job in maintenance that paid a fraction of his previous salary. He never complained. Lily needed stability, and Aurora 7 was the only home she had ever known. The other maintenance workers had become like family, helping with childcare when Marcus worked double shifts and sharing meals when credits ran short. It was not the life he had planned, but it was honest work, and his daughter was healthy and happy. As Marcus rounded the corner near the waste processing units, his flashlight beam caught something unexpected. A figure huddled against the wall in an alcove normally used for storage. At first, he thought it might be another worker taking an unauthorized break. But as he approached, he realized this was no human. The being was clearly alien. Unlike any species Marcus had encountered in the cultural databases, it stood nearly 7 feet tall, but was bent with apparent age and weakness. Its skin had a pale blue-green hue that seemed to shimmer in the artificial lighting. Long, delicate fingers emerged from sleeves of what might once have been fine robes, but now appeared tattered and stained. Most striking were its eyes, large, luminous orbs that held an intelligence and depth that reminded Marcus of ancient trees or deep oceans. The alien noticed Marcus's approach and attempted to stand, but weakness made it stumble. Its breathing was labored, and even from several feet away, Marcus could sense desperation and exhaustion radiating from the creature. Most station workers would have immediately contacted security. Unauthorized aliens in restricted areas violated numerous regulations, and the fines for failing to report such incidents could cost Marcus's job. But something in those ancient eyes reminded him of nights when he had gone hungry to ensure Lily had enough to eat, of the vulnerability that came with having nowhere else to go. "Hey there," Marcus said softly, setting his cleaning supplies aside and raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "You look like you could use some help." The alien's universal translator, a small device clipped to its robes, crackled to life. The voice that emerged was weak but carried unmistakable dignity. "I apologize for trespassing, human. I sought only temporary shelter. I shall depart immediately." "Wait," Marcus said as the alien began to move away. "When did you last eat?" The creature paused, its luminous eyes studying Marcus with surprise. "It has been some time. The commercial vendors require payment I cannot provide. Without hesitation, Marcus reached into his tool belt and pulled out his lunch, a simple sandwich Lily had made him that morning, along with a protein bar and a container of processed fruit. It represented half of his daily food allowance, but the alien's obvious hunger stirred something deeper than self-preservation. "Here," he said, offering the food. "It's not much, but it should help." The alien's eyes seemed to shimmer with what looked remarkably like tears. "You would share your sustenance with a stranger, with one not of your species. We're all just trying to survive out here," Marcus replied with a shrug. "Besides, my daughter always says the best way to make the universe better is one small kindness at a time." As the alien accepted the food with reverent care, Marcus noticed something else, a small recording device partially concealed in the folds of its robes. He said nothing about it. Privacy was a luxury in space, and everyone had their reasons for documentation. "What is your name, generous human?" the alien asked between careful bites of the sandwich. "Marcus, and yours?" "I am called Elder Korith," the alien replied after a moment's hesitation. "I am far from my homeworld, seeking to understand the nature of various species before my people make important decisions." About the future, they talked for nearly 2 hours. Marcus found himself sharing stories of life on the station, of raising Lily alone, of the small community that had formed among the maintenance staff and service workers, who kept the station running while the miners and administrators took credit for its success. Elder Korith listened intently, occasionally asking thoughtful questions about human customs, about compassion, about what motivated someone to help a stranger when they had so little themselves. The alien was particularly interested in Marcus's relationship with his daughter. He asked about human child rearing, about education, about the values parents tried to instill in their offspring. Marcus found himself describing Lily's curiosity about the universe, her kindness toward others, and her remarkable ability to find joy even in their modest circumstances. "Your offspring sounds remarkable," Elder Korith observed. "She must bring you great pride." "She's my whole world," Marcus admitted. "After my wife died, I thought about giving up. The debt was crushing, and I didn't know how I could provide for Lily alone. But she needed me to be strong, so I became strong. Every day I work these corridors, I think about the future I want to give her: education, opportunities, choices I never had." Elder Korith nodded slowly. "You speak of sacrifice with such ease. Does it not burden you?" Marcus considered this. "I guess I don't see it as sacrifice. When you love someone, taking care of them is just ... what you do. The other maintenance workers here, they help watch Lily when I work late shifts. Mrs. Rodriguez in the cafeteria always makes sure. Lily gets extra portions when credits are tight. Everyone looks out for everyone else because that's how we survive. And you extend this care to strangers as well." "Why wouldn't I?" Marcus asked. "You needed help, and I could provide it. What kind of person would I be if I walked away from someone who was hungry just because they looked different from me?" As dawn shift approached, Elder Korith stood, steadier now after the meal and rest. "You have given me a great gift, Marcus of the humans. Not merely sustenance, but insight into your species' capacity for compassion." The alien reached into his robes and withdrew a small crystal pendant that seemed to pulse with inner light. "A token of gratitude," he explained. "May it bring protection to you and your daughter." Marcus wanted to refuse. He had not helped, expecting payment, but something in the alien's manner suggested refusing would be deeply offensive. "Thank you, Elder Korith. I hope your journey brings you the answers you seek." After the alien departed, Marcus returned to his duties. The encounter felt dreamlike in the fluorescent lighting of the maintenance bay. He carefully tucked the crystal pendant into his pocket and tried to forget about the security violations and potential consequences of his actions. He had done what felt right, and he would not change that decision regardless of the outcome. 3 hours later, Marcus finally made it home to their small quarters. Lily was already awake, preparing for school with the independence that made him simultaneously proud and heartbroken. At 8 years old, she had learned to be remarkably self-sufficient. "How was work, Dad?" she asked, looking up from her breakfast of reconstituted protein and vitamin supplements. "Quiet night," Marcus replied, not mentioning the alien encounter. Lily worried enough about him already. "But I'll be home in time to help with your homework tonight." Lily smiled, the expression lighting up their modest quarters. Mrs. Chen from level 12 said there might be a field trip to the observation deck next month. We'd get to see the stars without the station lights interfering. Marcus felt his heart clench. The field trip would cost credits they did not have, but Lily's excitement made the sacrifice worthwhile. "That sounds amazing, sweetheart. We'll make it work." As Marcus tucked Lily into bed that night, the crystal pendant pulsing gently on his nightstand, he reflected on the strange encounter. Elder Korith's questions had made him think about humanity in ways he had never considered. Perhaps their greatest strength was not their technology or their ambition, but their ability to see themselves in others. Regardless of species or circumstance, he had no way of knowing that his simple act of kindness would soon change the course of galactic history. The revelation 3 weeks after the encounter with Elder Korith. Mining Station, Aurora 7, experienced the most extraordinary day in its 40-year history. Marcus was in the middle of his morning shift when the station's emergency alert system activated, sending a piercing wail through every corridor and compartment. "All personnel to emergency stations," came the voice of Station Commander Walsh over the intercom. "Unknown vessels approaching at high velocity. This is not a drill." Marcus abandoned his cleaning cart and rushed to the nearest observation window. What he saw defied comprehension. Dozens of ships, unlike anything in human space, approached the station. They were elegant constructions of curves and flowing lines that seemed to bend light around them. The vessels radiated an otherworldly beauty that made human engineering look crude by comparison. The largest ship dwarfed the station itself. It was easily a kilometer long, shaped like a crystalline spear that caught and reflected the light of distant stars. Smaller escort vessels arranged themselves in perfect formation around the flagship, their movements coordinated with mathematical precision. Throughout the station, panic was setting in. Mining Station Aurora 7 was a frontier outpost, poorly defended and far from any military assistance. If these aliens had hostile intentions, the station's population of 3,000 souls would be helpless. Marcus thought immediately of Lily, safely in school on the station's upper levels. The teachers would be implementing emergency protocols, moving the children to secure areas and trying to maintain calm. He wanted desperately to go to her, but his job required him to remain at his assigned emergency station until given other orders. The communication channels buzzed with frantic activity. Commander Walsh was attempting to establish contact with the alien fleet, while simultaneously sending distress calls to the nearest human colonies. The response time for any kind of help would be measured in days, not hours. Then, unexpectedly, the alien ships responded to the station's hails. The voice that came through the communication system was clear and melodious, translated by advanced linguistic software. Greetings, inhabitants of Mining Station Aurora 7. I am diplomatic envoy Zephyr of the Zalorian Empire. We come in peace, seeking audience with one of your people. We request permission to dock our shuttle and meet with Marcus Chen, maintenance technician. The request sent shockwaves through the station's command structure. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face as he realized every eye in his section was turning toward him. Why would an advanced alien civilization specifically request a meeting with a janitor? Commander Walsh's voice crackled over Marcus's personal communicator. Chen, report to Conference Room Alpha immediately. And for God's sake, tell me you have some explanation for this. The walk to the conference room felt like a death march. Marcus's mind raced through possibilities, all of them centering on his encounter with Elder Korith 3 weeks earlier. Had he somehow violated interstellar law? Was the station about to be punished for his actions? Conference Room Alpha was packed with the station's senior staff, all looking confused and frightened. Commander Walsh, a stern woman in her 50s who had run Aurora 7 with military efficiency for over a decade, fixed Marcus with a stare that could have melted hull plating. Chen, she said without preamble, what the hell did you do? Before Marcus could answer, the room's main viewport filled with the image of an alien being. It was tall and graceful, with the same pale blue-green skin he remembered from Elder Korith. But this individual radiated power and authority. Elaborate robes of state adorned its form, and a crown of crystalline material rested upon its elongated head. Humans of Mining Station Aurora 7, the being said, its translated voice carrying absolute command. I am Empress Solarian of the Zalorian Empire. I have traveled across the galaxy to deliver a message of utmost importance. The room fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. An empress had come to their remote mining station. The implications were staggering. 3 weeks ago, Empress Solara continued. My father and most trusted advisor embarked on a mission to evaluate your species. For 2 centuries, our empire has monitored humanity's expansion into space. We have observed your wars, your conflicts, your treatment of other species. Many in our council believed humans represented a potential threat that should be contained or eliminated. Marcus felt his knees go weak. Elder Korith had not been a wandering scholar. He had been an imperial spy, evaluating humanity's worthiness to exist. My father, Elder Thane, disguised himself as a simple traveler and visited multiple human colonies and stations. In most locations, he was ignored, turned away, or reported to authorities. Your species showed him the same suspicion and xenophobia our intelligence reports suggested. The viewport image shifted to show Elder Korith, or rather, Elder Thane, but now wearing robes that marked him as royalty. Marcus recognized those ancient, intelligent eyes immediately. However, Empress Solara continued. On this station, my father encountered something unexpected. A human who saw not an alien intruder, but a fellow being in need of help. The viewport now showed a recording of Marcus offering food to the disguised elder. Every moment of their interaction had been captured. From the initial encounter to their lengthy conversations about human nature and compassion. Marcus Chen, the Empress said, focusing directly on him through the screen. Your actions toward my father have fundamentally altered our understanding of humanity. You risked your employment, your ability to care for your offspring, to help a stranger you had never seen before. You shared food when you had little, offered medicine when you could have faced punishment, and provided companionship to someone who was alone. The recording showed moments Marcus had forgotten, bringing the elder additional blankets from the medical bay, sharing stories about Lily, explaining human customs and values with patience and kindness. More importantly, the Empress continued, when my father tested your motivations with philosophical questions about human nature, your responses demonstrated wisdom, compassion, and an understanding of universal brotherhood that impressed even our oldest advisors. Commander Walsh and the other officers stared at Marcus as if seeing him for the first time. The humble janitor who cleaned their corridors had somehow become a representative of the entire human species, based on my father's experiences, particularly his encounter with Marcus Chen. The Imperial Council has voted unanimously. Humanity will be offered full membership in the Galactic Confederation of Species. Your people will receive access to advanced technologies, trade partnerships that will elevate your civilization, and protection under Imperial law. The room erupted in stunned whispers. Membership in the Galactic Confederation was beyond humanity's wildest dreams. It would mean the end of their isolation. Access to technologies that could solve energy crises, cure diseases, and open pathways to the stars. However, Empress Celera raised a hand for silence. This partnership comes with a request. Marcus Chen, my father, was deeply moved by your daughter's wisdom, as shared through your stories. The phrase, the best way to make the universe better, is one small. Kindness at a time has become something of a motto among our diplomatic corps. The viewport image shifted to show the interior of what could only be described as a palace, soaring crystal spires, floating gardens, and technology that looked like art. I offer you a position as humanity's first cultural ambassador to the Zalorian Empire. You and your daughter would live in the Imperial City, where Lily would receive the finest education available in the galaxy. Your role would be to help other species understand the capacity for compassion that makes humanity worthy of partnership rather than conquest. Marcus stared at the screen, overwhelmed. Everything he had dreamed of for Lily, education, opportunities, a future without limits, was being offered to them. But leaving Aurora 7 meant abandoning the only life they had known, the community that had supported them through their darkest times. Double quotes Marcus began, then stopped. Your Majesty, I am honored beyond words, but I need to talk with my daughter. This decision affects her future as much as mine. The Empress smiled, an expression of genuine warmth. Wisdom once again, Marcus Chen. You have as much time as you need to consider. My father speaks highly of your devotion to your offspring, and we would not wish to separate her from everything familiar without her consent. That evening, Marcus sat with Lily in their small quarters, trying to explain the day's extraordinary events. She listened with wide eyes as he described the alien fleet, the Empress's offer, and the possibility of living among the stars. Would I really get to go to school with alien children? Lily asked, her curiosity overcoming any fear. According to the Empress, you'd be the first human student in their academies. You'd learn things no human has ever known. Lily was quiet for a long moment, her 80-year-old mind working through the implications. Finally, she looked up at her father with those eyes that reminded him so much of her mother. Dad, you always taught me that when we can help others, we should. If you become an ambassador, You'd be helping all of humanity, wouldn't you? Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. And I'd be helping too, by showing alien kids that humans can be friends. Yes, sweetheart, you would. Lily stood up and hugged him tightly. Then we should go. Mom always said the best adventures start when you're scared, but do the right thing anyway. 2 days later, Marcus and Lily stood in the docking bay of Aurora 7, watching as an elegant Zilorian shuttle extended its boarding ramp. They carried only 2 small bags. Everything else they needed would be provided in their new home. Elder Thane, no longer in disguise, stood at the shuttle's entrance. The alien who had once huddled in desperate hunger now wore robes of state. But his eyes held the same wisdom and kindness Marcus remembered. "Are you ready for this adventure, Ambassador Chen?" Elder Thane asked. Marcus looked around the docking bay at the faces of friends and colleagues who had come to see them off. Mrs. Rodriguez, from the cafeteria, wiped away tears as she handed Lily a bag of her favorite cookies for the journey. The other maintenance workers stood at attention, giving Marcus the respect they felt he had always deserved. "Ready as we'll ever be," Marcus replied. As the shuttle lifted off from Aurora 7, carrying them toward the magnificent Imperial flagship, Marcus reflected on the strange path that had brought them here. A simple act of kindness, born from the basic human understanding that all beings deserved compassion, had changed the destiny of his species. Through the shuttle's transparent aluminum viewing port, he watched the mining station grow smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. Somewhere in the galaxy, other humans would soon learn that they were no longer alone, that the universe held wonders and friendships beyond imagination. Lily pressed her face to the window, her eyes bright with excitement. "Dad, look at all those stars. Do you think there are other kids out there who need friends?" Marcus smiled and put his arm round his daughter. "I think there are, sweetheart. And I think we're going to meet a lot of them." As their shuttle approached the Imperial flagship, Marcus understood that his janitorial days were behind him. But the values that had guided him through those difficult years, compassion, sacrifice, and the belief that small kindnesses could change the world, would serve him well in his new role as humanity's representative to the galaxy. The universe, as it turned out, was a much friendlier place than anyone had dared to hope. Asterisk.